Hey, Chris Liepe here with the isolated vocal tracks for Muse, the song Starlight, Matt Bellamy, and this is a great vocal performance. There's a lot to be studied here in terms of phrasing and placement and emotional engagement. There's also some neat subtle effects that go into enhancing this performance. We don't think of this particular song as having a lot of vocal effects. And I think these are my favorite kind of effects to study on a vocal performance, because when you're listening to the final mix, you're just like, wow, this is a great mix, this is a great song, great melody. And when you get a chance to hear and study the actual isolated tracks, you go, oh, that's why I felt that way about that particular portion of the song. Or maybe partially because of the way it was produced. So I'm excited to get into this with you. If you'd like more help with your own voice and vocal production as well, the best place to start is by clicking the link below and joining my free vocal course. There's lots of ways we can work together after you've gone through that course, but that's the best place to start. Please like and subscribe to the channel and turn the notifications on so that you're made aware of when my new videos come out.
And far away, this ship has taken me far away from the memories of the people who care if I live or die. The starlight.
Okay, so let's first talk about the way Matt phrases things and gets on the very front of his voice. You hear him talk, and he talks like a normal guy, but when he sings, it's this starlight. He has this, and I'm really exaggerating it, he has this propensity to start things further back with a lower larynx, and then bring his larynx up and bring things more forward. So it's like this, if I just say starlight, starlight, really experimenting with that idea of modifying your tone dynamically through one word. You can hear him doing this all over the place.
Starlight.
Starlight. And you can hear it later in the song, and I'll point it out more, but if we have this mindset going into absorbing these isolated tracks, this dynamic moving of tone, of our larynx, of placing the sound super forward, this is also highly compressed. Not just starlight, starlight, starlight. This is key. And I'm not making fun of him. I'm observing that by going to extremes in what we hear in his voice, it opens up all sorts of things in our own voice. Now, let's talk a little bit about the effects that are happening here. You can hear a bit of, test, a bit of short room reverb on him. Test, 1, 1. And it's actually, if we listen carefully, anymore. You can hear that there's a very focused sound followed by a short, pre-delayed reflection. And if you've watched some of my other videos, you've seen this plugin before. This is a nice go-to reverb for me. I'm actually going to shrink the room a little bit. Ha, ha, ha. Bring down the time. Test, ha. Starlight. Yeah. And then I'm going to add a bit of delay. This delay is going to be kind of a slap delay, and it's going to sit in with this reverb. 1, 2, 1, 2. Test. That's not the kind of delay we want. We want to create a slap delay. So I'm going to take the sync off, and we're going to reset the groove. So it's not going to be a wide sounding delay either. Ooh. test. Now you can hear it in the center. We want the feedback down. 1, 1. There it is. Starlight. So we have the width. It's a little bit loud, but we have the width of the reverb, and we have the sustain created by the delay. Anymore. Hold you in. That's a great starting place. A little bit of slap delay, a little bit of tight room reverb. Listening on.
A starlight, I will be chasing a starlight until the end of my life. I don't know if it's worth it anymore.
Ooh, some neat things to talk about here. But listen to how he is not afraid to incorporate his breaths into his phrases.
I don't know if it's worth it.
I don't know. He breathes. He closes his. He sighs and gasps, and it's part of his character. It's really neat. Don't always think about breaths as things you don't want to hear. They can create some music. They can create some intensity. Really, really neat. Now listen here.
And hold you in my arms. I just wanted to hold you in my arms.
We have a bit of distortion, or a bit more overdrive on his voice. There's a lot of different ways you can do distortion and overdrive. One of my favorites is this Shep's Omni channel, and you've seen me use it before. I'm gonna add a bit more heavy distortion, or heavy saturation here. Hold you in, hold you in, and hold you in my arms. We want it to be not enough so that when we go to the my, it's cleaned up a bit. Hold you in my arms. I think that's a pretty good balance. I'm going to record that and listen back to it so I don't have to evaluate while I'm singing it. Hold you in my arms. Listening back. Hold you in my arms. Now the other thing we're going to notice, now we've lengthened the delay. So we're going to go over here and we're going to mess with the settings again. Of course, if you're doing this in a real session, you'd have multiple delays set up. We're going to lengthen it. Hold you in my arms. And then we're going to pan it over to the side. Test, 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 test. And we're still band limiting a little bit. Hold. Hold you in my arms. Now that distortion, let's listen to the recorded one here so I don't have to compete with my own live voice. Hold you in my arms. Hold you in my arms. We've got something pretty close there. The key was dialing in the right amount of saturation, which I have before any of my compression or EQ. I brightened it up a little bit to accommodate for the saturation tends to darken things, and added this longer delay. Which, as far as I can tell from the original, it is loosely timed, but that's not the point. This is an ambient delay. This is not a tempo-based delay. All right, listening on.
My life, you electrify my life. Let's conspire to ignite all the souls that would die just to feel alive.
Again, an incredible display of inhales that are intentionally left in and part of his character.
I'll never let you go.
Back to that longer delay that's panned over slightly to the right.
I'll never let you go.
And the saturation.
If you promise not to fade away, never fade away. And our hopes and
Let's talk about this line here.
fade away.
Notice how he exits that.
Fade away.
Slides off of it. This is not fade away. There's that nice letdown. You start to listen to enough vocalists in really detailed ways, and the ones you tend to love are the ones who know how to exit notes. This is huge. Pay attention to this kind of stuff, especially with Matt. Now listen the way he shapes this note and the vowels.
Never fade away.
Bringing his larynx position higher as he goes to that E. This is not just fade, fade, it's fade. Squeezing it off a little bit in a healthy way. A little bit of squeeze is fine as long as we're doing it dynamically. Fade away.
And our hopes and expectations.
Some nice breathiness there. Our hopes. This is not just letting more air out. This is using compression in a different way. If I were to just whisper this, I would run out of air way too quickly. Our hopes and expectations. All done. But if I use my upper throat to create a rasp. Our hopes and expectations. I actually have the ability to sing longer because I'm holding back air and creating the rasp at the same time.
Black holes and revelations.
He's singing softly at the same time here, though. He's definitely backed off, and he's moderating this balance and airflow in a very strategic way. I like that pure note. Putting a little bit of rasp in there.
And our hopes and expectations. Black holes and revelations.
The contrast between the and his more aggressive, thin chesty mix sort of sound. Such a neat contrast. And the reverb that they put on there, that nice stereo, longer, sounds like a hall reverb, sounds great too.
And hold you in my arms. I just wanted to hold you in my arms. And far away this.
I like hearing how things dry up but not completely, and how situational these effects end up being.
And far away, the ship has taken me far away.
A bit more delay. They've automated up that short delay a bit here.
Far away from the memories of the people who care if I live or die. And I'll never let you go if you promise not to fade away, never fade.
The other observation about the effects is that he's singing
If I die,
la 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 la. It's a little bit higher, not a lot higher. And so when we are adding this overdrive and turning up the delay and modifying the reverb a little bit, this is really bringing this vocal performance to another level, even though there's not that much changing in the performance. It's important to realize, because I think sometimes we tend to over-sing when we're trying to create dynamics within a mix. Let your performance be what it is sometimes, and see what you can do, not to fix your voice with effects, but to bring it up another level without having to rely solely on push or solely on the dynamics that your voice is creating.
if you promise not to fade away, never fade away, and I hope that
There's an excellent exit there. And then listen how he cracks here.
black, and our hopes and expectations.
Our hopes and expectations. Our hopes. Those exits, those subtle cracks, in addition to the way he dynamically adjusts his tone. Bring it forward. I've done another video on Matt Bellamy. You should totally check it out because I go more deeply into how he gets his tone.
Black holes and revelations, yeah, and our hopes and expectations. Black holes and revelations.
The other thing that he doesn't shy away from is, and there's several singers who do this really well, he's vomiting his words, and his consonants are very, very in your face. Black hole! He's not at all afraid to blast that mic. Now you have to have the mic positioning right, and you have to, or have a popper stopper in front of it. But don't be afraid to really spit your words. Black holes, I'm gonna spit my words. I'm gonna spit my words, yeah. Part of bringing the words forward is by accentuating those consonants. And that can be really hard to do if you're singing high and you're breaking airflow by having all these hard plosives and consonants going on. So this is an exercise as you're working on being aggressive with your consonants. Practice keeping your support constant. Have a mind for that. It's not like we lay off on our push. We push through the consonants to create this aggressive sound. Keep that in mind.
Hold you in my arms.
So cool.
I just wanted to hold you in my arms. I just wanted to hold.
And it dries up completely for the last note.
I just wanted to hold.
Mute the effects right there so that it can end on a dry note. Really neat. Stuff you don't really think about unless you hear the isolated vocals. I also love the transition, the musical transition between his chesty voice. Hold you in my, and even the little improvisational sorts of things he's doing towards the end. Hold you in my arms. Take lines like this and what he's doing by going in and out of his head voice and start with it and then see what else happens with your own voice and put some effects on too. It's awfully fun to get into a character. I just wanted to hold you in my arms, sing with your hands,
and change your tone and see what happens.
Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for tracking with these videos and for making suggestions like this one. This video came about because of a suggestion, a comment on YouTube. If you want to go deeper with your voice, again, click that link below and join my free course. I look forward to working more with you in the future. And be sure to check out more videos that I release every week on YouTube as well. We'll see you soon.